to review the blogs that we've been posting on the UIA website over the last couple of weeks, and the idea was that this webinar would kind of culminate that information and also give you the opportunity to ask some questions. So we're about 6 days away from response, and so if anything we tell you here today you feel ill-prepared for, well, don't freak out, because one thing that inventors do really well is be inventive and innovative, and whatever you need to get done over the next few days to prepare, I'm sure that adrenaline will be going and helping you prepare for that. And so what we'll be covering today, and we've got the PowerPoint, so I don't need to kind of read verbatim, but just going over what you should ideally have in going into the show in terms of intellectual property. Jessica's going to talk about the patent aspect. I'm going to talk about the trademarks and patents. The trademarks and copyrights, and we're going to go over a little bit of the type of product pitch that you should have prepared in anticipation of this conference, and then we'll be talking a little bit about what you want to do in terms of the show follow-up. So I hope you find this really informative, and thanks for joining.
Okay, cool. So some of you may have been to a trade show before. Some of you, this may be your first trade show experience, and if so, we're really excited for you. So if you don't know what to expect, it's craziness and so much fun. We're going to have a lot of industry bigwigs there, so as you already know, the Telebrands, the TriStars, the all-stars in the industry, a lot of companies looking for products and looking for other business relationships, but they're really good people to get in touch with if you can, and at least listen, figure out who you're around based on what kind of conversations you hear, and you'll realize there's some great great companies and some great networking opportunities at the show. There's a lot of companies selling services, just like Paula and I are, so watch out for the attorneys. Those sharks, they'll come and get you. Obviously, lots of inventors. You guys are going to have a great time with like-minded people, the innovators. You guys are all going to be together in a great location, the UIA Pavilion. So really cool, and it's just an all-around really fun time. Take advantage of this, absorb, learn a lot, because you will. You're going to be in a lot of situations where sometimes you have no idea what people are talking about, and that's okay. And just take it all in and really enjoy the show. Anything else? I think we're good. Did I miss any big things to expect? Expect parties.
Well, and also that the UIA Inventor booth as well as our digital law group were next to one another at the show.
Yeah.
So if you have any questions while you're at the show, if you've had some feedback or someone has come over to you and you're not really sure how to respond to things, one thing you could always let people know is, I'll get back to you, and then seek that advice. So basically what we're saying is, you're not there on your own. You've got a support network.
Absolutely. We will be there to help you out every step of the way. So let's dive right in and talk a little bit about patents. A patent search, as many of you probably know, is a little bit more than just searching an idea on Google and seeing what you find. We recommend doing a patent search prior to even filing your provisional. We realize that kind of at this stage of the game it might not be an option. But patent searches can be very helpful in determining what's in your field already. I mean, is something very similar to your product already patented? And if so, what can we do to change your patent to make it, or to change your idea to make it patentable? So like I said, really, I know a lot of you, maybe you've never done a patent search before. That's okay. And maybe you did it prior to filing your provisional patent. Maybe you don't have a provisional patent right now. Maybe, this is the first time you're really kind of learning the steps. It's really okay. So, if at this stage of the game, you don't have a provisional and you haven't had time to do a patent search, and you need to get something protected in place prior to response next week, or if it's last minute prior to any show, you might be able to skip the patent search and just go straight to filing your non-provisional, because as we'll see in a minute, it is an affordable option, and it doesn't have to be so detailed. But we certainly recommend doing the patent search prior to a provisional if you have the time.
And yeah, just to add, I mean, the reason why we're stressing the patent is because, there are a lot of bad actors out there, and, best to, learn from the experience of others. That, if somebody goes out there with a great idea and it's not protected, people are walking around looking for ideas. Your idea at one show might be somebody else's product at another show, and that's why, forearmed is forewarned. A provisional patent can be done very quickly, and if you're not clear on what a provisional patent is, it protects your idea for 1 year while you go out and try to market it. And it's a very low-cost solution as compared to a utility patent. And so if you're concerned at all about that, feel free to reach out to us after this webinar.
Right. So basically, as we were saying, if you don't have time to do a patent search right now, don't freak out. It's really okay, and even if, you do a patent search and it shows there's something that's very similar to your product, like we said before, there might be a design around. So don't worry too much about if you don't have time to handle that right now. You certainly want to do the patent search prior to filing your non-provisional, whether it's utility or design. So let's talk about the provisional patent. You guys probably know a lot about this. We put some information out in the blogs. Provisional patents are a great way to protect your idea without having to, one, spend too much money, and two, provide too much detail. So you don't have to provide the elaborate drawings and all those things that come in when you file a non-provisional. So it's a great tool, and it's a great way to secure a priority date for your invention. And really, it gives you 1 year to be able to go develop funding, to perfect your idea, to find a partner. So it gives you a lot of options, and it gives you that first to file date, which is really important. And very importantly, and what makes a lot of inventors excited, is that patent pending label that comes with provisional patent. We know how valuable that is, and when you go and you meet the distributors, your big ones, your Telebrands, your TriStars, do you have a patent pending label? Because that's really big. And not only is it, it sounds good and everyone loves it, but it really gives you the protection that you need and allows you to go and put your product in front of people without the big worry that someone's going to, copy you and go patent it before you do. Doesn't mean people won't try, but you've got that first to file date, you have that priority. So we recommend filing before you show your product or, explain your idea to anyone. You really want to get this protection down, because once you take your product out into the public, you have 1 year to secure your patent. So unless you are doing it privately with an NDA, this is not open to the public, really you should have your provisional in place before doing that. So prior to response, if you don't have your provisional patent in yet, we recommend either being very protective and not putting your product on full display, get an NDA, or talk to an attorney. You can certainly call one of us and see the next steps into getting that provisional patent in place prior to the show if possible.
So we're talking a great deal about patents, and as an inventor, I mean, that's kind of the gold ring, so to speak, that you've patented a product. But, you've been working on this product, and if you're like most inventors, you're also thinking about a catchy name for your product. And, while it's great to go and file a trademark, again, not a lot of inventors have deep pockets. And so one of the things you want to make sure of is that the domain name is available, and that somebody else isn't using that similar mark, because you might think this is a really great name, and then you go to file it, and you spend that hard-earned money, and it turns out that it's rejected because there is a similar trademark out there. So that's also important for you to do those kinds of checks in advance, and again, reach out to other people who might be able to help you in this regard. I'll tell you, to me, what I find is one of the most valuable things about a trademark is that in terms of stopping infringers, and when you get to that point, if you started to put your product out there and maybe start selling it on marketplaces like Amazon or eBay or Alibaba, that infringers they mimic things that they believe are going to be successful. Isn't that the greatest form of compliments, right? And so in terms of being able to take down infringing products, trademarks are the way to go, in addition to copyrights, which I'll be talking about in a moment. But if I go to Amazon and I submit a takedown and say this is an infringer, that's listing my product on on your on your marketplace, and maybe that product is inferior to yours. So that's a big concern, because before you even get out there and really get to launch your product, you've got these very experienced, kind of network of from manufacturers, distributors. If they like your idea, they might be able to get that product manufactured more quickly than you can. And so the way that we can kind of monitor and be able to take down these infringing sites, be it Amazon or eBay, is to basically say my trademark is being infringed, and have proof that you filed that trademark at the USPTO or a state trademark. If you're looking to, let's just say your product would be manufactured in China, which is like 85% of the products are trademarked in China, you certainly want to have a filing there. Having a trademark in the U.S. does not mean you have protection in China. China's first to file system, and in terms of being able to register your mark, it's a lot easier to be the first one to file in China rather than to attempt to, say, validate that trademark in China because you say, well, I filed first in the U.S. It's doable, but again,
we could do a whole session on China.
We could do a whole session on that. So there's something called it's an international trademark filing, which is on the WIPO site. It's a Madrid Treaty. You can actually go in there and you can file in numerous countries at the same time. I'm not saying to do that, and we never suggest that you spend more money than you need to, because obviously okay, somehow we got muted for a second. But that's just something to consider in terms of if you're talking or already working with a manufacturer in China or other countries, that you would also want to get your trademark filed there as well. So moving right along.
Well, let me just add one thing, because I know some of you, you're not really at a point for trademarks. We want to stress with inventors and new products, if you are looking for a licensing agreement with the company, you're looking for a distributor, you might not have a name that you're married to right now, and that's certainly okay. We really stress this, if you are, pretty comfortable with your name and it's something that you want to keep, and also if you are putting your product out there, even if you don't think you're going to keep that name, it might be good to get something temporarily, just because, like Paula said, you don't want someone to see your product, see your name, and then go use it against you. Even if later on down the road you change the name, you certainly don't want someone taking it from you. You want to keep your options open. So we know not everybody is ready to file a trademark, and that's certainly okay.
And also maybe many of you have already. But so I would say the URL and getting the domain name of that name is really the first step in terms of protection. And we could just move to the next area we were talking about, which are copyrights. And when we talk about copyrights, what we're talking about basically are images. So images on your website are a YouTube video, a video that you made. That's something that is copyrightable. Again, when you look at what infringers are doing, they don't really want to put a lot of work into creating new packaging and new designs. So they basically take exactly what you have created and put it in a box, because what are they trying to do? They're trying to pass off their product as yours. So they're trying to confuse the public that they're selling the same product that you are. So copyright protection, very simple for a layman. You can put a little C in a circle with the year and your name, and that gives you what's called a common law protection. But you have up until 1 year to file your copyright with the Copyright Office if you're ever infringed and you want to get additional damages. So that's the only benefit there of actually filing the copyright. It's fairly inexpensive. It's about $50.
Yeah, it's not pricey at all. We have a link there on how to file with the Library of Congress. It's really self-explanatory. We recommend doing it if you have images, because even at the stage, if it's you haven't contacted a distributor yet, you still might have images that are going to be used later. And we were talking about Amazon and eBay prior, and the images that you copyright are your your best friend when it comes to removing some of those listings on those websites, because copyright, really, there's no argument. If your image is being used without authorization, it'll come down. We can bring down infringing products. So it really is a valuable tool. People don't always think about it right away. They think about their trademark, they think about their patents. But when it comes to protecting, the distribution of infringing products, copyrights are really, really important. And I think we deal with it day in and day out. And, we've really been able to do a lot of good for our clients because they have copyrighted images. And then, like Paula said, the best protection that you can get is to actually register with the Library of Congress, and then if you do have to go to court and, in an infringement matter, there are presumed statutory damages and attorney's fees. So you're not actually going to have to go out and prove X amount of units were sold, therefore these are your damages. There's a statutory, amount that you're going to get. So it's a really valuable tool. We highly recommend it if you do have images, especially if they're personal images. If it's pictures of you using your product and anything like that, we certainly recommend going on and doing it. It's affordable and it's a quick method to secure a lot of protection.
Right. And again, we're not trying to say crash course, 6 days, you've got to get all these ducks in a row. I mean, ideally, you have these ducks in a row. And, one of the things that you have to think about is when you're approaching a distributor, they would really like to get a product that is fairly complete. Here's the product, here's a prototype, or here's samples, here's the packaging, here's a website. And when you have developed all these things in advance of negotiating your distribution or licensing agreement, you're in a better position to negotiate higher royalties. Because if you look at it from if you will, a spectrum, you've got somebody with an idea on the back of a napkin, you sign an NDA and say, hey, let's hit the ground running. They might say, hey, here's 1% or 2%, and I'm going to invest the money to make this happen. Versus, hey, I've gotten my patent filed, my trademark, I might have a video or some kind of footage, and then you're in a position to negotiate a higher rate. So just in terms of managing your expectations, wherever your product is in its development life cycle is what you want to think about. And also I want to say that if you are at the lower level of that spectrum, I really do caution you, and from war stories, I've been doing this for a number of years, that if you're the babe in the woods that has this great idea with no protection, it's kind of, you have to be aware, because as we pointed out, there are some bad actors out there. And also, so I don't know if there's opportunity to take some questions now in terms of the intellectual property portion, as we then go into the next section of talking about pitching your product.
Sure. Provisional patent. I cannot read that.
We'll go to the next slide.
Looks like we have a question on provisional patent for international protection. How many inventors are going to be at the pavilion? Jessica, I don't know if you could answer that. How many inventors are in the pavilion? We have that question. If Jessica's with us. Okay. We have another question regarding provisional patents and whether those secure international protection. And no, as far as I'm aware, if you send a product over to China, go ahead. Sorry.
Right. Well, first of all, that's a whole other. If you're at the stage where you're going to manufacture your product in China, ideally you have an NDA. But let me just back up and say that it really is important that you don't say go on Alibaba and look to see who does a certain type of plastic mold or let's just say fabric products. You really want to vet them out because the network that exists there is such that you give a factory a particular product and they create a mold, and you find that same product then starts to be infringed at an entirely different factory. Short of you going out there and investigating what's going on, you don't know if there's relationships, and there's a little shell game that gets played. And so, I mean, that is one of the reasons why most inventors work with distributors who have these networks in place and are able to kind of guide you through and help to protect you in that way. So a provisional patent filed in the United States only covers you in the United States. And so, ideally, that you file the non-provisional, which is a design patent or a utility patent, and then quickly get that filed in other countries. China or whatever country that you'll be manufacturing is the second country that you would like, ideally, to get that intellectual property.
Yeah, we certainly don't recommend sending a product to manufacture in any country without having your patent registered there already. We've had some clients who have definitely run into that problem, and it's very time-consuming to correct and get that protection back in place. Okay, should we move right along? Pitching your product, our favorite.
And I want to start with this because, I mean, yeah, everyone gets excited. You're going to a show and it's like, oh, Kevin Harrington from Shark Tank or Telebrands or All-Star, et cetera, et cetera. In most instances, they will walk by your booth. They might say hello. They might say, this is fantastic. And they will not give you the time of day. And I'll tell you why. Because if you think about, if you're a Target or a Walmart, let's just compare them to them, for example. Imagine if they had to talk to 50 different inventors and cut deals with 50 different inventors individually and having all those relationships. And they're not really sure if your product is sellable. And, and that's kind of an important point, first of all, for you to be able to address. But just in terms of, have you gone out there? Have you gone to, say, flea markets? Have you, sold your product in, in some boutiques? But what I'm trying to say is that there are companies out there that we tend to refer our inventors to. Companies like Remarkable. Arlene Kramer will actually be at the show, and she'll be talking actually about her successful launch of the Whoop Washer. And so there are other companies that are actually will represent you for a small fee, success fee, that have those relationships with these big wigs, so to speak. And they have your best interest in mind, and they can help you to negotiate the best deal possible and navigate you through the pitfalls that you might face if you don't have the experience talking and negotiating with these larger companies. Basically, you'd be like the lamb to the wolves. So if you've got the interest of a big company, it really does make sense. It's just like, talent. Talent, there's a reason why they have agents, because the agents negotiate these talent deals, whether it's movie or book or commercial, all day long. So they know exactly the best deal that they could negotiate for you. So Arlene will also be at the show and at our booth and be able to talk to you in more detail about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know some of you are going to be doing the pitch session at the show, which is really great. So just a couple of pointers for when you're doing it. Be confident. I know a lot of you are probably going to be nervous. This might be the first time that you're putting your product in front of people. It might be the first time you've been at a show. So we know there's going to be jitters, but be confident, be charming, and know your product. Know the ins and outs of your idea. What other products are in the field? How is yours different? What distinguishes you and your product, and why would someone want to work with you over someone else who has a different or very similar product? And then prepare for things to go wrong. And I don't mean catastrophes, but maybe you forget a detail. Maybe you're asked a question and your mind goes blank. It happens. It happens to us. We do trade shows all the time.
Or your demo doesn't work.
Right.
Or your video that you showing
something
product.
Goofy might happen, and just have a contingency plan. If someone asks you a question and you don't remember the answer off the top of your head, can I get back to you in an email? Or I have an appointment. Can we talk about this at length later? Can I get a business card? If something happens with your product, do you have a backup with you? Things like that. So just think about, what you're going to be doing, how you're going to be selling your product, pitching your idea, and think about maybe those little things that could go wrong and plan around it. Figure out, okay, how do I respond if I do something or if I forget to say something? And then when you're asked about your product, you're really going to be asked, do you have a patent? What's the status? Is it pending? Have you sold any units? Like Paula said, have you been working, the flea markets? Do you have a little boutique? And then what need does your product fill? Why do I want your product? What's it going to do for me, and why will I spend money on it? And then what are you looking for? Why are you at this show? Are you looking for an investor? Do you want to manufacture and do everything on your own and have a company? Or do you want to license it? Do you want to give this to a distributor and get a royalty? So just kind of have an idea of
expectations.
Yeah, exactly. So it's really a good idea just to kind of have exactly what your end goal is, and it may change. You might go in thinking you want to manufacture and then you find a distributor, but just have a general idea of what you're looking for and really what you want to get out of the show with your product, and you'll be good to go. And like Paula said earlier, we will be there. Jessica Delich will be there. If you have questions, if you need help, you come find us, and we'll certainly help you out.
And just getting back to pitching yourself, because one of the experiences that we have found is a distributor or licensor is not just looking at the product. They're also looking at the inventor and how you present yourself. Because realize you're entering into a relationship. And it's just like anything that you want to make sure that this person who you're going to do business with is someone maybe who's knowledgeable, has some business experience and business savvy, who's easy to deal with. I mean, I have seen a product that was this close to having a distribution deal, and what they began to do was harass this distributor every day. Do you have news for me? When is this agreement going to be signed? And asking began to be a little unreasonable in terms of their requests, where the distributor basically said, I cannot deal with this person. So, that's one of the things that you have to think about. You're not just selling your product, you're also selling yourself. But in terms of selling your product, and, we realize, I don't know, Jessica, we didn't get the answer of how many inventors there, but let's just say there's 100. And so people are walking by your booth, and they're probably walking by fairly quickly. If something catches their eye, they'll come by. And so basically be prepared. We've all heard the term elevator pitch, and what? The average length of an elevator ride is 45 seconds. So you should be able to clearly and concisely present your product. This is what my product does. This is the problem that it solves, and get somebody excited in those 45 seconds. So please, over the next weekend, next few days, practice with your friends and your family, honing that pitch. And so, and to me, that is absolutely ideal, because what's the other expression? You've got first impressions are made in those first few seconds. So you really should be confident when people come over to really talk about your product in that 45 seconds. And then, hopefully if they're interested, then the questions will follow.
Right.
Well, have you filed a patent, or have you sold any units, or do you have inventory? And so then you should be prepared to, answer those type of questions.
And I think Paula addressed this earlier too. A lot of people are going to walk by and they might not be looking for a product. They're just, might be at the show. So don't just get discouraged if people come to your booth or your table or whatever you have, and just kind of take a glance and keep going. Don't get upset. Don't get discouraged. Your product is being out there. People are seeing it. They're seeing your face. And collect those business cards. Even if you think someone may not be interested, ask if you can have a card. It's always good to build that network and to build your database. So that's what we've done, and it's we recommend that to everybody. Collect those cards, get that contact information. You never know down the road what it could lead to.
Yeah, I mean there are a lot of vendors walking around as well, and you've got to it's kind of you learn this from experience, but you have vendors and they're trying to sell you a product, and you can be obviously very charming and very polite and kind of take a card and get them moving on their way, because the most important thing is that you can talk to as many people as possible. And also realize in talking to a vendor, okay, they're not a buyer, but they might know somebody who, hey, I know this other company who has a line of phone products, and this could be ideal. Let me send them over to you. So realize that maybe the person who you're talking to might not be, your ideal fit in terms of what your goal is to find at that show. But one thing I really do like about Response is it's a great network of people, and we're always helping each other in terms of sending one another leads.
Absolutely.
Whether it's a payment processing company, somebody will come over to you and say, yes, do you need payment processing services? Well, if you're looking for a licensor for your product, you probably don't. But, they obviously want to get your business, so they have every interest in trying to network and introduce you to people that might help you move your product along as well.
Yeah, and to that end, even, if you aren't talking to that key person that you think you want to be talking to, like Paula said, you never know who they know or who, they're going to dinner with that night. So pitch your product, sell it, give them a card, and, it could go a long way. All right, and along the lines of collecting business cards, follow up, follow up, follow up. We can't stress this enough. And phone calls when appropriate, but definitely emails. Even if it's someone that you don't think you're ever going to have a relationship with, send just a courtesy. It was really nice meeting you, response, and maybe a little bit of blurb about your product. Let me know if you have any questions or if you would like to talk. Even if you don't think it's going to go anywhere, get your name out there, get your product out there. Of course, if it's patented or you have your provisional filing, don't put too much out there. And you never know where it's going to go, and it could be a year later, hey, I remember meeting you at Response. And then, like Paul alluded to earlier with the follow-up, there's a fine line between being diligent and being annoying. Okay, so be persistent, but don't pester anyone.
Professional.
Of course, exactly. Be professional. Don't harass. If someone is interested, they're going to reach out to you too. So don't forget that. Don't think that you have to be the one to, ram it down a throat or, just to get your point across or your idea into the right hands. Be persistent. Be professional. People will definitely contact you if they're interested, especially the big distributors. They'll be all over you. So I think that's what we have for follow-up. Anything else along those lines? We definitely want to take some questions.
Sure. I mean, we're going to spend a little time to answer some questions. Hopefully the vocal will work. But just other couple of things, and I was thinking about in terms of the many trade shows that we attended, and don't eat at your booth. Don't spend too much time talking to your booth mates, although definitely make friends. It's helpful. If the person at the booth next to you knows a little bit about your product. I mean, if you're there by yourself, for goodness sake, you're going to need a bathroom break, or you're going to need to, go grab a bite to eat, and it's really helpful. I love the camaraderie that gets developed, during the shows, where it's like, yes, well, Jan is out right now, but I know she's got this and that, and let me take your card. So definitely, make friends with the people, at the booth next to you, and develop those relationships, because you're all you're not really competitors there, because you're offering different products. And, the companies that are out there, I mean, they're talking about particularly distributors, many of them have niches. Some of them are, more geared toward the houseware products, and others are geared to,
the infomercial, the 30-second children's products, and
right, our
like
cooking products. So but basically, there'll be a nice mix of products, I believe, coming, and I look forward to seeing what you guys are going to be showcasing. There's nothing more exciting to us than innovators and really seeing you guys succeed. So yes, on one hand, we're going to say don't go in there like lambs to the slaughter. Be aware of the issues and the potential concerns, that there are bad actors out there. And on the other hand, there are a lot of people that are looking to do good business and could really be an asset to you.
Absolutely. Okay, let's see if I can pull up some questions. My screen might get a little wonky by trying to do this, but I cannot expand this box for some reason. LMA in Vegas in June. I don't know if we have Jessica on the line. She can probably, she can certainly answer. She's going to be there. I don't know, are we going to be in Vegas in June?
Yes, I think so. But if we can't hear Jessica, let's call her on the cell phone, so at least we can get her one way or another, because there's some trade show related questions that we can't answer.
Right. And certainly if you have questions, you can send us an email. If there's a particular show that you're going to be at, let us know. And maybe it's a good show for us to be at too.
And then also to mention, at the Inventors Pavilion, we'll have a booth there, and then the 2 days of the show, so Wednesday and Thursday, Arlene Kramer of Remarkable Products, she was one of the key drivers in identifying this product, which has been extremely successful, called the Woof Washer 360. If you haven't seen that product before, go to the website. It was just an incredible launch in terms of a video that was
viral on Facebook.
Went viral on Facebook.
Yeah.
It was just an incredible effort and an incredible network of people that all got together to make this product successful, just really putting in all of the pieces in place. And because I'm not really sure that you're aware that at this show you've got a lot of very specific areas of expertise. Not only the distributors, but the people who could create an infomercial, to the ones that are really successful in terms of social media plans, like the potty squatty. Has anyone seen the potty squatty? I'm not. If you haven't seen the infomercial, you got to see it.
Look at that.
Absolutely. But these, a product could be really great, but sometimes, consumers buy products not because it's such a great product, but because it's just marketed so well, and that's really the genius of our industry.
Absolutely.
Like ShedWow guy, that's another one. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm just trying to look at a question here. What is the best way to file copyright or patent or all? Okay, well, they're definitely different, as we talked about before. Copyright, as we mentioned, you go to the Library of Congress and it'll give you an option whether you're filing an image, whether you're protecting a video, and that's how you protect your copyright. Patent, you obviously have to go through the USPTO, and it depends on, are you filing provisional, or are you filing a non-provisional? If you're filing provisional, you may be able to do it by yourself. We don't really recommend that, but you may be able to swing it. An actual non-provisional utility or design patent, you certainly need an attorney to go in and file that for you. If you have questions on how to file a patent, you can give us a call, send us an email, and we'd be happy to discuss that further with you. But we certainly don't recommend trying to file a non-provisional patent by yourself.
Right, and I think what we should also mention that for members of UIA, we are offering discounted rates for inventors. We really like to support innovators, and we understand that you don't always have deep pockets. And we also, because of our network of people, we are able to introduce you to potential investors or put you in front of distributors, particularly where we know, hey, we know this company is looking for products in, let's just say, bathroom products, and we know that they're launching and are looking for what's called upsells. So you might have a product that is really cute and great, but maybe it's not actually a standalone product, but maybe that product could be important in terms of what's called an upsell. So, I mean, I'm sure many of you have seen the commercials where, if you order this product, we'll give you another product for free. I'll use the Woof Washer product, which is a dog washing apparatus, as the patent is called, and then that product is offered with a washing mitt as an upsell, and that was created by another party. So that's also a consideration as well.
And we do have an interesting trademark question on here. If you're still, looks like if you're still working on a U.S. trademark approval, can you get protection in international before you do in the U.S.? And yes, and I think Paula can elaborate on that a bit as well.
Yeah, so basically, if you're based in the U.S., if you have a U.S. company or a U.S. citizen, you're able to use the U.S. filing system of the USPTO to then file in other countries. So once you've got this, what they assign you right away is a serial number. And you can take that serial number and file in other countries. So yes, absolutely not a problem.
And you can also go to the different countries directly if you need, you need China filing right away. You can also go to the country and not have to necessarily go through WIPO. If that's not what you want to do. I don't know why you want to.
Well, I mean, for example, through the WIPO, you can file in over 150 different countries. There are certain countries which we file in frequently where there are a lot of known bad actors, such as, let's just say, South Africa is one of those, and you actually can't go through the WIPO. But, again, you get that U.S. patent, or U.S. trademark filed, and then you really want to talk strategy in terms of where else you want to file. We're not telling you to just, go and spend thousands of dollars. There's a strategic approach to an intellectual strategy internationally. And you probably want to talk to somebody about that before you go out and start spending the money. Again, to reiterate that, China, wherever you're going to manufacture, you certainly want to have your intellectual property filed there.
Someone also asked if these agent companies or companies that represent your product, if they want an exclusive deal. And yes, they're usually going to want to represent you exclusively for a certain period of time, and sometimes within a particular field. So maybe just in direct response, or maybe just in retail. But there's usually going to be exclusivity with that. So I don't know of any other.
Oh, absolutely, and you can understand if somebody's representing your product and they're bringing it around to their valuable contacts, they want to make sure that they have the exclusive right. They wouldn't want, say, some other third party approaching that same company.
Right.
And it's, in terms of, this is a large industry, but pretty much folks know each other. And if you go shop around your product, which is also, if you're going to 5 different companies and making that offer, that's kind of frowned upon, because one company doesn't want to put in all the effort to negotiate with the thought that some other company is going to come in and get into a bidding war.
Right.
We're not talking about investing in startup companies where, we've got investors coming in and saying, I'll pay $1 billion for Facebook, and someone says, I'll pay $20 billion. So that's not really how our industry operates here, and it really is important to understand that if you start to go down a path where you're working with someone, it is understood and it's expected that you're not, approaching other people. It's kind of like you're starting to date somebody, so, you don't want to find out that, you're dating that person's friend at the same time. It's just somewhat frowned upon.
Yeah, and make sure you get your, if you do enter into a product representation agreement with someone, make sure you have an attorney review that agreement before entering into it, to make sure your royalty that you're giving away or whatever you're going to pay for that service isn't outrageous, and that, there's the proper protections for you there as well. So don't just go sign with anybody who says they can rep your product. Put that agreement in front of someone to review.
Well, yeah, because what I would add to that is, and one of the things that we really do appreciate is that an invention is like your baby. I mean, you've given birth to this invention, and you want to make sure that whoever you're working with to help kind of raise this child to, make it a viable and hopefully profitable venture, that you're working with someone that you're comfortable working with, and you have a relationship that is not causing you stress, and that you feel like that company, and obviously companies are made up of people, that they're your partners and that they're your supporters. You don't want to have what we refer to as post-purchase dissonance, like, why did I enter into an agreement with that company or individual, and be really unhappy with it. And we've seen time and time again where inventors have entered into relationships where where they regret it. They entered in really quickly because there are instances where maybe you have been pitching your product and you haven't gotten the response that you want, and you start to feel like, is my baby ugly? And so the first person that comes along and says, hey, your baby's pretty and I'm going to give you this offer, you go and you take it, and then you realize later that that was maybe not the best relationship for you to enter into. So you have to be pragmatic here, understanding that there is an emotional attachment to what you're doing. But business is business. So that's why we're talking about all the protections that you should put in place, the advice that you should seek, before you sign on the dotted line, so to speak.
Yeah, do your due diligence. Protect yourself and your product. So I think that's all we have for questions. If anybody else has one that they want to type in real quick, we'll give it another minute. Again, like Paula said, Arlene Kramer of Wolf Washer is going to be at our table 11:30.
We'll be doing it 11 and 3 both those days, understanding that everyone wants to be there at their booths to meet people. You'll find at this show there will be a lot of activity, usually right before lunch and then at the end. And so you're going to have lulls. So we've got 11 and 3 we can come by. Arlene's going to kind of talk about the life cycle of, from the innovation and meeting the inventor, and kind of getting that product on track to commercialization and distribution, which I think is really helpful as a, to have a case study example of like, this could be your product because this is a successful example. And then obviously we're not talking about the ones that weren't successful because there really isn't, there isn't, they didn't kind of make it to where they've got the distributors, and so we really want to, what we want to present to you is best case examples of what you could hope for in terms of, the type of deal that you can strike for your product. And, obviously it's just really exciting for an inventor to, to get that deal and then to start to go to production if you're doing an infomercial and a social media strategy, and so we're hoping the best for all of you that that you're going to have those kind of opportunities while you're at the show.
And it's exciting for us to watch too. We've really enjoyed watching Wolf Washer and its success, and our other clients that have had really successful products. So we get excited. We're in your corner certainly, and have as much fun as you do.
Right. So she'll be there 11 o'clock and 3 o'clock on Wednesday and Thursday.
Okay. 11 and 3. Come talk to Arlene. So we have one more question, and it's about, looks like, I don't know if you're talking about fees or the cost to file patent, trademark, and copyright. So there's filing fees. You can find those on the USPTO website and on the Library of Congress website. The fees for copyright, as we said before, are nominal. I don't know off the top of my head. It's certainly under $50. About $50.
Copyrighted depending on the, I mean, we can give you that information afterwards. Feel free to reach out to us, and and we're happy to give you that information. So.
And it varies. It does vary, especially with patents. The filing fees can vary.
Right. So like when our firm files, whether it's a provisional patent or a design or utility, we basically ask you to give you an idea of the number of claims. The number of claims really determine what the legal fees would be for that, and we work off of a project basis. So, we have an idea of what your claims are. We have an idea of what the prior art is. Most law firms should be able to give you a project-based, so you know exactly what your costs are in terms of budgeting, and that's really important to understand.
Yep. Especially when you're starting up, we know that you don't have all the money in the world to spend on this stuff. So we're very conscientious of that. So I think that is it, and I don't think we're going to get Jessica back on the line.
All right. Well, any questions?
So any final questions? We will wait for a minute and.
Right. And so what we'll be doing, I guess, by tomorrow is we'll just send you just some, closing notes in preparing things to bring with you to the trade show. If you do have a trademark, if you do have a copyright, bring your certificate or bring some proof of that. So that's, certainly a good thing to have in terms of talking points. Somebody might ask you, to take a look and see that information. And of course, you should be very proud of it. In fact, this inventor last year, he had it framed and he had it sitting at his table.
It is something to be proud of, absolutely. Okay, I think that's it, guys. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, thanks so much, everyone, for your time, and Jessica for arranging this for us.
Absolutely, and we look forward to seeing you next week in San Diego at the UIA Inventor Pavilion.
Yeah, so have a great show.
All right, thanks a lot, everybody.